Hello, my name is Ariel Aliseo with Peak Vitality Fitness, and today I get the opportunity to interview one of my favorite personal trainers, a nutrition coach, as well as a business owner, Paul Rosenberg. So, Paul has over 30 years' experience in the industry. He had a very successful studio here in Las Vegas, as well as partnered with several corporations on their wellness programs, including Zappos. So I am very happy to have you, Paul. Thank you for joining me today.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
So, do you want to share a little bit first on your journey? So, what got you into fitness? And I know you've been in it for about 30 years. So, anything else you wanted to add about your journey?
Sure. I started working out when I was 14, 15 years old. My brother started working out first, and I always kind of looked up to my bigger brother, what things he was doing. And I convinced my father to buy me a weight training set, like just a bench and a bar. And I started working out. And the real reason why I got into it is because I wanted to. I didn't like being skinny, and I thought if I put on some muscle, it would help me meet women, which it didn't help. um, I fell in love with working out, and I like the sport of bodybuilding, and I started reading a lot of books on it. And when I was in my late teens, I think 18 or 19, I used to pull business cards off of tack boards that I would find at health food stores because that's how trainers 30 years ago would advertise themselves. And I would prank call them like, oh, how much do you charge? And I came across this woman, her name is Judy Gillette, and she owned some personal training studios that were very successful in Las Vegas. And I called her to kind of prank call. And sure enough, we got into a conversation, and she could see that I was really passionate about working out. And she offered me a job as a trainer at her studio. I didn't have any experience other than working out myself and helping my friends, but I jumped on the opportunity. Granted, I was only getting paid like $10 an hour, but at the time that was more money than I was making. And the very first session, when I trained somebody and I kicked their rear end, I just got a high off of it, and I was like, oh my God, I really love this. And over, the next few months, I quickly became very popular with a lot of her clients, but she didn't want, the clients to work out with the same trainer regularly because she didn't want favoritism because some trainers had, stole clients out of there. But one of the clients I was training, this guy, Tommy Love, he kept telling me, Paul, you're really good. You should go off on your own, go work in another club and make more money. And so I talked to some of my clients that I was, had developed friendships with. And I said, hey, look, if I was to leave, would you follow me? And they said, yes. So I went to Gold's Gym at the time. And said to the manager, I met the manager. I said, hey, listen, if I bring about 12 clients, would you let me train here? And granted, I didn't have a certification, but he said, yeah, because he wanted to sign the people up. But so I went back to these people. I say, hey, look, I've got a place to go train. And so long story short, they followed me. And I started training and became self-employed at 19. Since then, I worked at Gold's Gym for about 6 months before they kicked me out. And then I went to Family Fitness, which is now 24-hour fitness. I was there for a year until they kicked me out. And then I went to LVAC, Las Vegas Athletic Clubs, and I was there for 18 years until they kicked me out. And why did I keep getting kicked out? Well, just because I'm really independent minded. I don't like people tell me what to do. I want to run things my way. And respectfully towards LVAC, it was a conflict of interest. I was pursuing opening a hot yoga studio, and that created a conflict for them. I have nothing but respect for them. And but they did me a real service by terminating my contract with them. So they didn't essentially kick me out, but um, it was then that I decided to open my own gym because I wanted full control. I didn't want anyone telling me what to do or worrying about if, what I was doing was conflicting with how that company runs business. So I had the gym for 10 years in downtown Las Vegas. And then maybe I'm offering too much, but then I closed it um, about 2 years ago. And that's when I discovered virtual training.
Mm.
So then I just started training online. I've been doing it for the last couple of years internationally. And I can work from anywhere as long as I have good Wi-Fi. And that's brings me to right this moment.
Amazing. Really, really incredible journey. Did you ever have any moments where um, you're feeling any doubt, uncertainty? Am I on the right path? Is this what I want to be doing? Can you remember any specific times where you hit those walls, I guess?
Yeah, there was a couple times, one time that a client got hurt, um, and it was under my watchful eye, and he says, "Oh, well, don't take it like this isn't your fault," but I'm still the one training, and uh, I really doubted myself at that time, and even as of recent, I delved into photography for about a year while I was training online, but I just kind of felt like I went on a different path for a little while. And also, when I was
Hmm.
30 years old, I moved to Seattle and I opened a record store, a music store, and I got out of
Oh, wow.
training because I had burnt out at the time. But recently, I had been heavily into photography, but now that I'm residing in one place in Mexico, I I'm feeling really reinvigorated to dive deep again and grow my fitness business. And to be honest, meeting you has motivated me to want to, pass it on and teach and build business again. Because I have found another trainer who's just as passionate and wants to grow, and that fuels me also. So yeah, I'm really charged up right now about growing my fitness business. Doesn't mean I want to get on the floor and train for 50 hours, 60 hours a week like I used to, but I want
Hmm.
to do it in a different way.
Hmm. That's amazing. So, why? What do you think keeps pulling you? And thank you for that. There is something about just serving others in this area and in this arena. And so even when you go and you explore different industries, what is it about fitness or maybe the people you get to work with that keeps kind of like pulling you back?
Well, it's two things. First of all, anytime I've ever tried something else, I've never really had a lot of success with it. I think I could do well in photography. I do, but I'm not inspired to keep pushing it. When I opened that record store, I love music, but it's not my first passion. And,
Hmm.
I've tried other jobs and such, but I always just keep getting pulled back into fitness. And the reason why is because, you know, you and I, Ariel, we're nerds. We love fitness. It's in our blood. It's in our bones. It's who we are. We
Hmm.
live it, eat it, breathe it, teach it, practice it. It's just, I'm obsessed about health and wellness. I always have been. No one's ever had to convince me to work hard in it or to be interested in it.
Hmm.
And, consequently, that's been very advantageous for me throughout my career. I've never had any issues getting business
Hmm.
or acquiring clients. There's always been a demand because I think when you're really passionate about something naturally, people want that. They want what I have. They want to drink the juice, however you want to say it. If you have a problem with your car, what are you going to do? Go buy a manual and learn how to fix it and watch YouTube videos and spend hours doing that? No, because you're not interested in it. You're going to take your car to a professional, someone who loves doing that type of stuff. Well, most people don't think the way you and I do when it comes to health and wellness. They're not obsessed with it. They're not nerds about it. They don't love it like we do. So they need us. Personal trainers are if someone who's really good at it and makes a career out of it, not someone who does it as a side job, someone who lives, eat, and breathe it. Um, the average person doesn't think that way. So just like
Hmm.
taking your car to the shop, they want to come to us to, learn and be led and be told what to do and be held accountable, because, that's what we do and it's who we are. So, yeah, I've tried other things, but I always keep coming back to it because it's what I'm good at and it's
Hmm.
what I know.
For sure. Yeah, that's really good. That's really good. So thinking about like the clients that are or future clients, the people that are going to come across this video, that's exactly it. You want to find a trainer that is passionate about what they're doing, that it's not just a hobby or a side gig. Although that's good, I'm sure you'll get a lot out of working with someone like that. But it's true, you can feel that energy, right? And you could feel when they care about your results just as much as you do, right? And you want that type of support, because not everybody needs to nerd out on this like we do. The other aspect that I wanted to touch on too is I have been learning how to get better as far as the nutrition journey for myself and for my clients over the past few years. When did you start really incorporating the nutrition side? Because you also do have a book. So, yes, kind of segueing into the book and how you started also prioritizing as far as wellness on the fitness side as well as the nutrition side, because you do need both. You need both.
A two-part answer to that. One is on Cenogenics. So if I forget that, please remind me. But the first part
Mm-hmm.
is, I've always been into nutrition as long as I've been into fitness. So for me, they go hand in hand. And when I was young, I'm 52 now, but when I was 21, I read a book called Diet for a New America. And I was turned on to that by a friend. As soon as I completed the book, I went completely vegan. And, but I didn't know what I was doing back then. So, but, that's just an example of, how I got into diet. But what really turned the tide for me, incorporating it into my business, is when I really disappointed a client. So when I was in my, I think mid 20s or what have you, mid to late 20s, all I had back then was I'd have clients write down that we were eating for 2 weeks, keep a log of it, and then we would set up a session to go over that together. And I would tell them what they need to do differently and such. And but I also do fitness assessments. So I did the
Mm-hmm.
fitness assessment with her, gave her the gave her the instruction on how to change. Then we did another assessment 8 weeks later, where I measured her body fat and her weight and things like that and her fitness. Well, when I measured her body fat, it turned out that she didn't make any progress. And boy, was she mad at me. And I said, look, I told you what to do. Don't eat this, don't drink that. She didn't listen to me.
Mm-hmm.
But ultimately, it was falling on my shoulders. And I came to realize that I can't just tell a client what to do. I have to have a program, I have to have a system that they follow. So at the time, I started mentoring with another trainer who I had a lot of respect for, and he was really successful. His name was Brad Estes. I met him at the Las Vegas Athletic Clubs. And he had a nutrition program. And it was very simple, his program, and it was based off of number sequences. So he would provide his clients with a list of food, and then he would give them a number sequence to follow, which is how many proteins, how many carbs, how many veggies, and how many fats in a day. It was that simple. That's all he gave me. But from there, that was enough. That's all I needed to know. And I started building my own system. And I created my first book. But was back then it was just a, you know, a like what's this called? A 3-ring binder. And I would put a stretching program in there, time management program. I had a nutrition program with the food list and these different characteristics. And then I started having clients take before photos. Anyway, so I launched the book into my business after it was completed. And I had a program now. And I started producing really good results for my clients. But that coupled with the fact that I'm a pit bull with my clients, I follow up with them constantly. I'm holding them accountable. I just, for some reason, that's just a natural tendency of mine. So when you put those
Mm-hmm.
two together, and over the course of a 12 or 16 week time period, I started producing really miraculous transformations with clients. But what really hammered it home was when my client Margie, she signed up for an international competition called Body for Life. It's not around anymore, but at the time it was really popular. And it coincided with this Bill Phillips. He owned EAS, which is a supplement line. And he was hosting this Body for Life contest. And the winner won like $100,000 or something like that.
Mm.
My client won the international contest out of
Wow,
thousands of people. If I was to show you her photo, it's a dramatic transformation.
that's
And then
amazing.
she took me to Colorado for the award ceremony. But that's when I was like, oh man, my program it's something for real here. And then it really helped me blow up my business at Las Vegas Athletic Clubs when I was training there independently, to where I got to 8 trainers and 500 clients off that program. Um, so that's the first thing. The second thing was when I started working for a physician named
Mm.
Dr. Life, ironically. And he was a national best-selling author, and he was the chief medical officer of a company called Synergenics, and which was all about, they would monitor your blood work, and it was like a VIP doctor, so to speak. But he
Hmm.
hired me to be his fitness and nutrition coach for his clients. And
Wow,
I was working with, some celebrities. Not that that means anything necessarily, but it just gave me more and more proof that what I was doing was on the right path, and my program was really legitimate, and it helped a lot of people.
absolutely. That is incredible. Yes, and I did read Dr. Life's My Life Plan, his book.
Okay.
Really, really good information. And all of that is so incredible. And so thinking about that one client, right? Because when you start nutrition, I think the way I see it, and you could correct me if I'm wrong, is a lot of people know what they should be eating and what they shouldn't be eating. They have like a baseline understanding. There's always more that we can learn. But it really comes down to breaking old habits and creating new habits. And you actually helped me understand this too. Of some people like us, we can go all in when we know this change is going to be good for us. Most people, it's small incremental changes that we have to start out with. So, can you share a little bit about how you help your clients that are wanting to make change, but you want to take them on that like slow, tried and true path, right?
Well, in the past, I would just have them jump all in, but I've come to realize that human beings are not wired that way. They need to make small changes to build their confidence. And once they've mastered that, then it's easier to accept taking on another thing and then another thing, to where you might have 10 things that you're not doing. But what works well is that I have the clients, they have to be accountable not just to me, but to themselves. So the way they
Mm-hmm.
do that is they write down, or log rather now, what they're eating. Because if you're not, the only way for a client to be accountable to themselves is they have to look at what they're doing. And they don't want to keep
Mm-hmm.
writing down chocolate chip cookies every other day, because they're going to be
Right.
like, why am I doing this program if I'm going to keep indulging? So that's number one. Number two is I'm going to look at it. And
Mm-hmm.
then I'll say, hey, look, what's going on here? Or what do we need to do? What adjustments do we need to make so that you can move forward? But there's something about me, Ariel, and I don't know what it is. Actually, I do know what it is. I care a lot
Mm-hmm.
about my clients and their progress. And I invest a lot of time in them. Like, I'll follow up with them with messages. Even people I haven't trained for 15 years, I'll still keep in touch with them, because these are my people. And once someone
Mm-hmm.
becomes a client, it's like they're a client for life. And these are lifetime relationships. And I'm always wanting
Mm-hmm.
to look after these people. So I go out of my way to keep in touch with people, even when they're not paying me for services. And people say, like, wow, man, this guy really, really cares. And he really invests time into me. I don't want to let him down. So not
Mm-hmm.
only do they want to hold themselves accountable, they want to be accountable to me, but they also don't want to feel like they're letting me down, because they know how much I'm investing in them, even when they're not paying me.
Right. That's amazing.
So
Yeah, that's
yeah,
really
it,
good.
it makes a big difference.
It really does. And that's the biggest thing I want people to get out of this too is knowing that those small changes do make a big difference, right? And it's a challenge for all of us because nutrition, at least I'll share for me, I know nutrition is a struggle for me, and I hear it the most with my clients. They understand that they need to be working out. The nutrition piece is the most challenging. And the best way to do that is to have somebody that holds you accountable, that you know really cares for the results that you want to get. So that's a very important point there.
May I add something to that? I think the most challenging, in my opinion, is based on each individual. Some people can get the diet easily, but other people really struggle with the consistency of the workout. So every client's a little bit different. I would say in general that you're correct, that the diet is the toughest part. Um, and the reason why I believe is because it's directly tied into people's emotions. And,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people eat for comfort. I'd say most
Mm-hmm.
people eat for comfort. And it's hard to switch to a mentality of, like an athlete where you're just eating for performance. Because, food has attributes, let's face it, that are enjoyable. And, there's also cultural elements to that where,
Mm-hmm.
it's ingrained in the very fabric of your being about how you operate and how you were raised.
Yep.
So making changes to your diet can be challenging for a number of reasons. And, really, I think the real emphasis needs to be on uh, trying to be responsible. Because, who's going to eat perfect all the time? Who's going to want to be a robot and just, never have something enjoyable? But, as people get older, there's certain biomarkers that you can look at for health. One of them being the blood work of what's called hemoglobin A1C. It's a blood sugar test that measures how much sugar is in your bloodstream for 3 months. Well,
Mm-hmm.
if you're in a over sugared state constantly, that's a high, what's called biomarker for longevity or mortality. So people who have high sugar are more prone to degenerative disease, whether it be, heart problems, diabetes, cancer, all those things. So the motivation starts getting a little different as people get older. And what I always try and tell people in the very onset is, look, if you're calling me just because you want to lose weight, then you need to change your goal. The real
Mm-hmm.
goal should be that you should try and get as fit and healthy as you can. And the nice byproduct of that is that you're going to lose weight, because
Yep.
just looking better is never going to keep someone continuously motivated. But if you get your
Mm-hmm.
blood work done, man, if your numbers are way off, now it's not even about how you look. It's about, well, if you don't correct this, you're going to be in trouble. So that,
Mm-hmm.
you want to touch people on a little deeper level other than just looking
Mm-hmm.
better. And I think that's another way, as we were talking about a minute ago, that you can help institute change in someone is by getting them to change what their focus is.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really good. I know that you're also a fan of Andrew Huberman. So the neuroscientist has a ton of great information out there. And so I love to touch on the points around mindset. And then you kind of also mentioned when it comes to food, food is emotional as well as cultural. And we also had this whole generation from like the 90s to early 2000s where diet culture, right? So there was this whole push on like punishing your body for results. I don't like to come from that perspective. I think it's more of the enjoyment and fulfillment of taking care of your body as your body takes care of you. And so, do you want to share a little bit about uh, kind of what you're learning as far as like the neuroscience behind mindset shifts and like what you were sharing about changing your perspective on what your goal is?
Wow, I don't know if I'm qualified. um, there's a commitment I think a person needs to make to bettering themselves. And,
Mm-hmm.
we all go through cycles where we're really off. Maybe you don't, I don't know. Or maybe, where we're
I
really
do.
on. Yeah, I think
Mm-hmm.
it's human nature. And, but even those off cycles, to be honest, are tools for growth if you look at
Mm-hmm.
it that way. So what it comes down to ultimately is when it comes to making changes, we have to be willing to look at ourselves and do a self-analysis. And I think a lot of people are not objective thinkers, and they just go with how they're feeling. But, it takes a very self-aware individual to give themselves an honest assessment of how they're doing in
Mhm.
their each area of their life, and a willingness to try and improve that. Where,
Mhm.
some people are just, they have challenges with trying to make long-term changes. And, Anthony Robbins, you, when I used to listen to him a lot, he would talk about this pain pleasure principle, where
Mhm.
when someone experiences enough pain, that they're willing to finally sit down and do something about it. Maybe people call that even a rock bottom. And I'll just, from a personal example, I like whiskey, I like wine, I like sake, and I drank off and on for most of my adult life, even when I was in my teens. And I had a period when I was from 21 to 26 where I didn't drink at all.
Mm.
And then I've had a couple of periods in between where I stopped. But, it's too easy to get caught up in habitual ways of doing things. Oh, I want to have a glass of wine at dinner. Oh, when you go out to dinner on the weekends, maybe you have a couple of drinks. Now, that doesn't mean I'm getting hammered, getting completely blitzed, but that still adds up. If you're having a one drink a night during the week, a glass of wine, and then two or three on the weekends, that's what, like 60 drinks a month or something like that.
Mhm.
That's a lot. And, there's consequences to that, because then it's like when you start living indulgently, I feel, at least with me and what I've seen with clients, that indulgence spills into other areas of your life.
Mm.
And
Mhm.
whether that be, so if I'm, wanting to indulge with alcohol, oh, and then I'm having desserts, or I'm snacking, or I'm eating more processed foods. And then I'm watching a lot of Netflix, or, UFC or Marvel movies. And then I'm, um, overindulging on social media. So it's like, when we're talking about mindset, I think you have to look at your habits first and foremost, because your thoughts, your feelings, and your behaviors are all interconnected and they all influence each other. But your thoughts and your
Mhm.
feelings are the hardest ones to control, because it's like you're deeply programmed in your subconscious. But your behavior, I feel that that's the one that we can really take charge of. And when you take charge of your behavior, well, that influences your thoughts and influences your feelings. And that's what I've really been working on lately, even with myself. I cut out social media, cut out alcohol, cut out processed foods and sweets, and I replaced it with the Huberman Lab podcast. And I really feel so much better, and I kind of don't even want to go down that road anymore. And as I said
Mhm.
earlier, now that I'm older, time is limited. And how do I want to utilize my time? And consequences become greater as you get older with your health when you have health practices that are not optimal. You know, as we age, our hormones age, or change rather,
Mhm.
excuse me, and our body's ability to metabolize sugar changes. But people have a tendency to keep eating the same way. So what happens? They gain weight as they get older. It's like, oh, why can't I lose this weight? Or they start having high blood pressure, high cholesterol. Their sugars are getting off. And, I'm not a young man anymore. I'm not, my body's not as resilient. So it's time for me to just really dial it in, I felt. It's
Yeah.
a long answer.
That was really good. So many like important points that I want to bring out. So a few things. So it sounds like one of the biggest things you've been saying. So let's say somebody's watching this, they're not ready to work with a personal trainer. They're not ready to take that step, right? But one of the biggest pieces that you shared that I think can help anybody, whatever stage of life that they're in, is just take some time to do that self-analysis and self-reflection of where you're at, how you're eating, how you're showing up in work, how you're showing up in your overall health. Even if it is that check up with your doctor at all ages, it can be very eye opening and give you a good picture, a little snapshot of where you're at right now. And then let's say you can't work with a personal trainer right now, or you don't feel ready to work with a personal trainer, you could start looking at what are some small steps you can take now to change what you feel is necessary to change. Because when you start feeling better, just like you were sharing how you could get in that downward spiral of how your decisions are now leading to it's a few more drinks, it's now the chocolate cake, it's now endless scrolling. The opposite is also true. So once you start, let's use that same example. Let's say you're cutting back on the drinks you're drinking, and then you notice you have better energy. So now you're showing up better for your loved ones. And then you also notice you have better clarity at work. So now you're more disciplined in that area. And so starting to feel better in your health and wellness will only have a positive ripple effect in all other areas of your life. So anything you wanted to add there?
Yeah. For the many years, every New Year's, I haven't been going out. But what I do instead is um, because I don't want to stay up real late and party and be around a bunch of drunk people. That's not appealing to me. So
Mm-hmm.
I would instead do like a life analysis, look at
Mm-hmm.
how I've been living over the last year and moving forward. What do I want to do differently, and what goals do I want to accomplish? And that's always been really beneficial to me. And as a matter of fact, this year I tried something different with all my clients, and it's been really useful. I set up 30-minute phone calls with every single client. I didn't charge them for it. It was kind of a New Year's gift, so to speak, where I did that same thing with each of them, did a full analysis and went over all these different areas of that are related to health and wellness, whether it be meditation, sleep, cardio, strength training, stretching, foam rolling, mobility, supplementation, blood work. And boy, each client really resonated well with that. And then I sent them a recap after the fact, and which was kind of like a homework prescription for them. And now, everybody, every single client just really got dialed in. And wow, I even a client that I never thought would change. She decided to stop drinking, and oh my God, it was a huge deal for her because ever since I've known her for the last 10 years, she's just fluctuated with her drinking and her weight. And maybe it motivated her because I told all my clients, say, hey, do this with me. I'm going to do dry January, no alcohol, no sweets, no processed foods, no social media. And I did it. I got my 30 days. But, a lot of them decided to do that along with me. And I think it was a nice thing for them to, like you said, start incorporating some changes. But having a plan, a written plan, I think really helps.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, that's amazing. And just like you were sharing with that client that you had for 10 years, and now she made that change today. I kind of want to touch on that because sometimes when we hear these types of interviews, we start to feel that pressure of that we need to start making all those changes now. And you don't. If you want to, you can, but it's also okay to take it one step at a time and have that. This is why I believe in personal training is sometimes we're not even aware of what we should be changing first. And so having someone that could help you see what would be the best first step, as well as hold you accountable to that first step, one that you feel comfortable and can agree with for yourself too, right? So having your agreement, yes, this is the one area that I know I can commit to changing, and then having that accountability partner that's going to say, I will now hold you accountable to this because we both want the best for you going forward. That's why I believe in personal training. And also to kind of share a little bit too, I know that my eating habits were as bad as they were until I started to learn more. So sometimes we do have like a base understanding, but once you start learning more, when you know better, you do better. And so having that person in your life that is going to expand your knowledge, expand your understanding, without any feelings of like judgment or criticism, it's always with open-mindedness and curiosity because just as Paul was sharing, he's been doing this for 30 plus years and now he's recommitting in different ways. And so we're never not on this journey. It's an ever long, lifelong journey of constant self-improvement, feeling better in our bodies, our health, our wellness. As our body's changing, we're changing our game plan as well. So, yeah.
To think about the opposite of that, with someone who's
Mm.
not on that path, they just keep getting worse. That's just mind boggling to me. And, you see a lot of that here in Las Vegas. Just
Mm-hmm.
walk through a casino and you see people sitting on the slot machines, smoking cigarettes, drinking. 9 times out of 10, they're obese. It's a real
Mm-hmm.
problem.
Oh, yeah.
And some people just get to the, can I cuss on here?
Go ahead. If we need to cut it, we'll cut it. Say your piece.
I won't say the whole word, but some people just get to the effets. There's a effet, like they don't care.
Mm-hmm.
And because this is my body, it's my life, I'm gonna do what I want. But they'll start caring when the uh, shit hits the fan, and that's
Mm-hmm.
usually when people are like, wow, I got to change. So, but and maybe that's human nature. I don't know.
Yeah.
Um, but that, like, there again, I guess it goes back to that pain pleasure principle that most people don't change until they really, really have to. But
Mm-hmm.
I like the other way around of being on this path of self-improvement, because I I think that we should be self-aware, and we should know what
Mm-hmm.
our tendencies are. And like, I like being fit. I like how I feel when I'm in shape. I like how I look when I'm in shape. And I know better.
Mm-hmm.
I can't fool myself. What am I going to keep eating chocolate all the time? No, that would be foolish of me. I'm too aware, self-aware, that I'm not going to allow that to happen all the time. And I think the other thing too is you got to really know yourself and your tendencies, because I'm not a good moderator. If there's chocolate in the house, I'm probably going to eat it. So what do? I
Mm-hmm.
just don't keep it in the house.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
so know your tendencies, know yourself. I think that's another big
Yeah.
touch point.
Okay, so I actually do want to shift gears a little bit. Let's see if we'll actually keep it in the recording, because I feel like it's a touchy subject, but it's important to point out. And you kind of already alluded to it of, yeah, we walk around in 2024 in America, or let's just say Las Vegas, and it's now a new normal to be unhealthy. And it's now a new normal. Even when I studied for my senior fitness specialist certification, people are living longer and their quality of living is going down. And by 20, like I think it's by 2040, the cost for healthcare is going to be like excruciatingly painful for America, right? And so there is this push of wanting to get on top of the fitness and nutrition game, because the trend right now is people are living to 80, 90, 100, but they're spending the last 30, 40 years kind of suffering and in a facility and assisted care and assisted living situations. Um, and so I recently heard on a podcast that delayed gratification has now become a superpower. And so, do you want to touch a little bit on? So, my whole mission is to help seniors. I do believe that it's never too late to start making changes. And also, I'm 31, so I hope it also inspires people in their 20s, 30s, and 40s to get a handle of it now. Um, what are your thoughts on working with people that are just maybe not all in, but we want to try to help get them in that direction? Or anything you want to share on what I said?
Well, first of all, you can't change people. As much as we
Bummer.
would like to think that we can as trainers,
Mm-hmm.
people don't change until they're ready. Now, we can try and
Mm-hmm.
influence them. We definitely can. And sometimes, not all the time, our influence will motivate and inspire someone to make change. So that's one of the best things about being a trainer, is that, we have that superpower, because of our nerdiness, that, we can have an influence on people. But a lot of people just flat are not ready. They're just not ready to change. And it doesn't matter what you say or do,
Mm-hmm.
to try and help them. And, when someone comes to me and they say, hey, Paul, look, I want to lose weight. I want to get in shape. I say, okay, the first question I'll say, well, why? Why now? Why are you calling me? What led you to come to this conclusion? And based on their answer, I'm going to know if they're ready. Because, if someone's truly ready, it's usually because they hit some kind of low that now it's like, okay, I'm definitely ready to do something about this. You can hear it in their voice. You can feel it in their, the energy that they're expressing. And because I'll say to someone, look, if you're going to do this 12-week program, you got to be all in. And it doesn't mean they can't screw up or cheat. But if you keep screwing up, you're not learning. You're not going to make a mistake and then you're going to make an adjustment and fix it. You're just going to keep making the mistake. Then that means they're not ready. And I personally, and I hope this doesn't sound terrible, but I don't like to babysit people. If I'm going to really invest in someone, and I want them to meet me halfway, like they have to try their hardest to improve. Not be perfect, but to get better.
And also, just to add to that, they will feel better about themselves too, knowing that they took personal ownership. Nobody really likes to be handheld, not even toddlers. I have a 3-year-old. So that sense of personal responsibility and ownership, although it may be hard in the beginning, it will feel the most rewarding later, knowing that you committed.
So I don't want, look, there's always that salesman mentality. I've got my 12-week program. I want to sell this person. But that can't be, that's not good, because then it's about me. That's why I'll pose a question to the person like, hey, look, don't do this. Don't take on this 12-week challenge with me and pay me the money for me to help you unless you're serious, unless you're really ready. Because first of all, they're probably not going to get the results they want, which means they're going to lose the money. That, the money that they spend is not going to be worthwhile. And secondly, that's the only way to get the results, is to be ready and commit. So it's like, why do it unless you're ready? You're not going to get what you want out of it anyways. So, I make it really clear in the beginning that like if you're going to do this, let's do it. Let's do this together. But if you're not ready, it's okay. I'm not the right person for you, or you're just not ready. And that conversation can actually spur the person to say, wow, he's right. Let's do this now. Maybe even just that conversation alone can make that person realize, you know what? I don't want to waste my time. Let's do this, Paul. And 9 times out of 10, people have far better progress. So like my success ratio, I don't want to say it's guaranteed, but it's, there's a far, far greater likelihood that someone's going to really get what they're looking for and make real and long lasting changes by starting off that, the conversation the right way. So it's like, you have to preempt it properly, because then you're mentally preparing that person for real life change, not talk, but real fundamental life change. And again, it doesn't have to all be at once, but even if they just started like, okay, you got to quit soda. You had a nice 30-year relationship with soda. It's time to break up with soda. Like, okay, so what if you never have a soda again? Is it really going to kill you? You had a lot of great times with soda. Now it's like, okay, just break up with soda. And then now you're broken up with soda for 3 months, and okay, let's break up with, gummy bears, or, whatever else it is that you need to break up with. And I know I'm using some analogies here, but you got to be ready, number one, and willing to make changes, and be determined to learn from your mistakes and improve and make adjustments. And number two, you have to progress. And I always tell clients this let's say when it comes to cardiovascular exercise or building muscle, the first thing you have to master is consistency. Not intensity. Like, I want to work hard. No, first get the consistency down. Then you can progress and build upon the progress that you're making. But if you never master consistency, it's like you're starting over all the time. So
absolutely.
You don't have to be perfect, but you have to keep trying. And whether it comes to diet, cardio, anything that you want to incorporate in your life to be successful at it, you got to get consistent with it. So that's why I'm a real pit bull with my clients. You got to get on a regular basis. And I think that that's what served me. One of the reasons that served me, let me rephrase that. one of the reasons why I've had such longevity in the business is because one of my greatest strengths is getting these clients to work out constantly and holding them
Hmm.
accountable, rescheduling them. And, you know, a lot of trainers may not want to accept this, but our business is a very self-sacrificing business. I've had
Yeah.
many a days where I work long hours, train people on weekends, stuff like that. Um, I've had better boundaries and such with my life because you have to, because certain clients will take advantage of that and constantly reschedule. But if they got to get in there on a regular basis, or they're not going to improve. And it takes
Hmm.
a trainer who's really dedicated to that person to want to go the extra
Yeah.
mile. And I think that's another reason why the clients are clients for life with me, because they know that I'm willing to go the extra mile, and I'm willing to work hours that a lot of trainers didn't want to work.
Hmm. Yeah. So you're retired-ish with a lot of new exciting projects that are coming. And
I'm
maybe
coming
in a
out of
couple months we
retirement.
could.
I'm coming out of retirement
Yeah.
right now. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's say somebody is watching this video. Yeah, he's got some amazing stuff coming up. So hopefully we can talk to him again in a few months and share a little bit more. But let's say somebody is watching this YouTube video and maybe they're a little bit motivated, and we know we can't fully rely on motivation, right? But let's say they don't know if they're ready or not, right? And we don't want to waste their time. We don't want to waste your time. We don't want to waste my time, but they're maybe considering working with either you or me, right? Moving forward. What are some self-reflection questions that they should look at to see if, yes, you're ready, now's your time? And I would like to say it's your time. If you're watching this and you made it this far, just call us. But let's say in the event that, what are some of self-reflections questions that people can ask themselves, or some of the answers that you got of like, it's not time and that's okay, or this is
let's
your
make it
nudge to move forward?
let's make it easy. Just
Mhm.
go get your blood work done. Serious. Go get a
Yeah, even at
full
30.
panel. No, go get a full panel. Okay. If
Mhm.
under insurance, blood work, your insurance will only cover certain blood work tests, like fasting glucose. Well, that tells you how much sugar's in your body for the last 24 hours. Now that's important if you're diabetic. But the other blood test, which I believe I mentioned earlier, is called hemoglobin A1C. That's a blood work test that will tell you how much sugar is in your body for the last 3 months. Well, if that number's high, you can expect problems. But nothing will tell you more about your current state of health than blood work. So if you need a wake up call, go get your blood work done. Because a lot of people, looking in the mirror is not going to do it. Because
Mhm.
there's people who are heavy that are still happy. Life is functioning. It's not really hurting them. Or, if you're on some meds, that's another reason to change. I never want to get to the point, God willing, that I have to rely on a medication to keep me alive. I refuse to do that. I'm going to do everything in my power to prevent that. But,
Mhm.
or go get your body fat checked. You can get on an in-body scale. It's fairly accurate, not the most accurate, but that will tell you how much body fat, what your body fat percentage is, how many pounds of fat you have, and how many pounds of muscle you have. Um, or you could get on a DEXA scan, which is the most accurate way of measuring body fat and bone density. Because people respond to consequences, not if something's not wrong. If you see that your bone density is bad, well, what can that mean? That can mean that you can get osteoporosis.
Mhm.
Or if you see that your body fat is really high, well, what can that mean? That can mean that you can get on cholesterol, or you're going to have high cholesterol and you have to get on blood pressure medication. Like that should
Mhm.
motivate people, I would hope. Um, or if your sugar is really high, then you can have diabetes, or it can lead to problems like cancer. Now, but some people are just not even motivated by that. Like if you look at someone who's a smoker, they might not even care.
Mhm.
Really, I think now that I'm thinking about it, it's really an emotional thing. You got to get down to, if you got an onion and you peel the layer of that onion, you got to get to the root of what's really happening. And by asking questions a little bit deeper, why do you do that? Why do you do that? Why are you doing that? Some clients will, some people will open up to you. Maybe they've got abuse in their history, or maybe they have problems with addiction. And if you try and get someone on a fitness plan and they have really addictive characteristics or tendencies, that you're not going to solve that with providing them a good diet plan. Some people
Mhm.
need deeper level of care and help. And, those are the questions that usually need to get solved, because if you have someone that's normal and functioning, in terms of their mental health, they're probably going to be in decent shape to begin with. But when people have more serious concerns, that we can learn a lot, and not that we're going to help people with these things necessarily, because we're not psychiatrists or psychologists, but ultimately, like, making life change is a discovery process. And to be honest, committing to an exercise program or making dietary changes, these are great um, pathways that
Mhm.
lead to greater levels of overall change. And I found, like, when people sign up for the 12-week program that I have, you'll see that they're making other changes in their life. Like, because if you really commit to taking care of yourself, you're going to start seeing how that positively affects all these different areas of your life. And that's,
Mhm.
that's why I love the tool of, working with someone on a personal level, because you start seeing them change and grow as individuals. I remember this gal that lost a bunch of weight, and she started a new business, got out of a bad relationship, got into a new one. It's like her whole life was improving. And that's what
Mhm.
you'll see quite often, because the same characteristics of success that it takes to be successful with eating clean regularly and working out regularly are the same characteristics that it takes to be successful in other areas of life. So it's more of an all-encompassing thing, rather than
Absolutely.
some specific things, like, question.
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe that wasn't
So,
the answer you were expecting, but
no, that was really good. I think that's so true. So a lot of it is, um, I think they talk about this like in AA meetings. I don't know. I
yeah,
know this is a
maybe.
common way to like look at things, right? So first you have to be aware that there's a problem. So don't be afraid to get that blood work done. It's better to get it done now than later and have it scare you later. Just rip the band-aid off, see where you're really at, take that snapshot. The second piece is knowing that now that you know where the problem is, that you know that there's a possibility to change it. And then I would add that that last piece to ask yourself is like, do you actually care enough to want to change it? Or are you going to let it get worse and have to face it later, right? Um, and some people, I guess, I hope this is not the case, because trying to address some of those problems now versus later is going to only make it easier for you. However, if you choose to let it linger until later, that's also your choice as a human being too. Um, and so hopefully you take it as an opportunity. Let's say you do go get your blood work done. You take that as an opportunity of like, this is where I'm at today. This is not where I have to be. These are things that I can actually improve upon. It's not a life sentence right here, right? Thank God that you know now, right? I'm glad I took the chance to at least see clearly where I'm at health wise, right? I know that I can change it because there's examples of people that have. Find those examples, work with people that have seen other people make those changes, and then decide for yourself, do I care enough to make this change for me? And hopefully the answer is yes. So, yeah. Is there anything else you would like to add as we wrap up?
Well, I think that people have to challenge themselves to get uncomfortable, because, that's where change resides. And, living an indulgent life versus a disciplined life is two very different mentalities.
Mm.
And I think there's a lot of beauty and uh, growth that comes from discipline. Whereas, when we're indulgent and just engaging in behaviors that make us feel better, or that are uh, engaging in comfort, nothing usually comes from just entertaining ourselves. A lot of my focus has been on that lately. And God, I was going to say something else with that.
It's a
Oh,
beautiful place to be.
yeah. And, going back to, these commitments that I made to myself to be different, I want to make them long term. That's my goal. And I heard I'm really into podcasts now, and I think that you replacing these just sources of entertainment, because think about it, with your phone, just with a touch of your finger, you have access to so many things. Whereas, you know, putting down the device, starting to, spend time with people in reality, getting off of social media was a huge thing for me. I'm not on there anymore. I don't intend on going back. But what did I replace it with? I replaced it with podcasts, and I'm learning things. I found the Huberman Lab podcast, which I can't get enough of. It's such a wonderful resource for all things health and wellness related, whether it be sleep, exercise, blood work, hormones, your teeth, whatever. I mean, it's such a wide ranging field of topics that he covers. But anyways, getting back to it, I replaced social media with listening to podcasts. So
Mhm.
I think, finding ways not just to challenge ourselves, but to replace habit patterns or routines with things that are more beneficial for our growth, we can get a lot out of. Yeah, I would encourage anybody to check out that podcast. Maybe it won't resonate with you. His podcast, some of them are 2.5 hours long. I listen to it in parts, but
Mhm.
I'm really glad that I'm on this new path of uh, staying off of social media, laying off the alcohol, cutting out the sweets, and the processed food, and really minimizing that, and replacing it with things that are going to help me learn and grow. And I feel reinvigorated again, and like I'm on a
Mhm.
new cycle of growth. And there's just something wonderful about that. But to do that, what are you willing to give up to get what you really want?
Mhm.
That's one thing. And, I heard a quote by Rich Roll, who's a podcast host. And it was, how much suffering am I willing to continue to endure before I make a course correction? Man, that just
Mhm.
really resonated with me. Think about that statement. A course correction. You're going on a new path of life it's like you can become a different person whenever you want. That's
Yeah.
pretty cool. You can
Mhm.
rewire yourself to be a different person and to operate differently. That's so exciting.
Oh yeah.
There's a term for it called neuroplasticity, where it's like you're rewiring your brain. And
Mhm.
I'm really interested in all that stuff now. And I'll say one last thing that I'm endeavoring on, which is going to be a whole new learning piece for me, is I'm just submitted to have my saliva uh, sent out so I can do gene testing. They can
Mhm.
now tell, now through looking at your DNA, um, you can discover what your diet should be based on your genetics. Man, that's
Mhm.
nuts.
Yeah.
Think about it. If a child is born, you can actually find out what is the perfect diet for that individual for the remainder of
Mm.
their life, that's going to keep them super healthy and that's going to prevent them from getting catastrophic disease. Man, that's
Wow.
fascinating. So like there's just,
Yeah.
a world of health out there that just keeps that's what I love about health and fitness and being a trainer. We are on a continuously evolving um, uh, career path. It's
Yeah.
always changing and evolving. Health and wellness and exercise, it's a science and it's always growing and evolving. So it's like I can never stop learning. It's just
Mhm.
so fun, for me to
Yeah.
constantly be finding out new exercises, new ways of doing things, new ways to improve health and stuff. But that's the nerd
Yeah.
in me.
Yeah. Yeah, and just like we love to nerd out on all this stuff, we plan on researching it all for ourselves, but for our clients. And even if you're someone that's like, I'm not going to go full in depth like that, see how all of this can benefit you. Like, always come back to like, what's in it for me as the client or as the person watching this of like, okay, if I were to start having better energy levels, if I were to have better, improve my A1C reading, it's not just about the body that looks good. What are the deeper reasons of like, now I show up better for my kids, now I show up better for my partner, now I'm excelling in work, now I'm showing up, I'm waking up earlier and I'm sleeping great at night. There's so many other benefits that it falls over into. So allow yourself to celebrate those wins.
I want to add something to that in closing, that
Mm-hmm.
in the Jewish religion, there's something that's called performing a mitzvah. And a mitzvah means just doing a good deed for someone just to do it. Not because I'm going to get anything back, but just to do it. And, you know, the objective is to be performing mitzvahs all the time and be of service to others. And that's one of the best things about being a nerd about fitness is, yeah, I can optimize my own health. I can walk the walk. No more double standard. But that I can be of service to others and
Mm-hmm.
I can pass that along and help someone to improve their life. And that's even better almost than doing it for myself. But
Absolutely.
the more I do it for myself and the more I learn, the more I can help other people and
Mm-hmm.
pass it on and make a difference in people's lives. Because I think ultimately, not to sound cliche, but that's really what life is about is, making a difference in other people's lives and doing it just for the sake of doing it. Because the more you
Mm-hmm.
give, the more you get back.
Yeah, for sure. Amazing. Thank you so much, Paul. Thank you for everything
You're
you've
welcome.
shared. This is what I'm going to do. I am going to link my website, how you can find me. I do use his nutrition book and program with all my clients. And as he is transitioning out of retirement, starting to do a lot of really cool things, I want all of you to also stay in touch with him if you would like to and stay up to date on what he's doing. So we'll figure out a way to link his information so you can stay in contact, stay familiar with what he's up to. I know he's not on social media right now, so we'll figure out how we can add it in the description below so that you can stay in contact or stay following him as well as any information from Peak Vitality Fitness. So thank you everybody for watching, and I will see you in the next episode.
Bye, everybody. Thanks, Ariel.